Hey, what's up, good people? Good to see you here. Good to see you here. So it's 2 o'clock. As I mentioned, I was gonna go live today, and the intention of today's live is to answer a lot of the questions that I've been receiving regarding property, regarding investing, regarding so many different things, but it's mainly around property. And feel more than welcome to drop your questions here as well on the live. I'll be answering your questions live as and when you ask them as well. So feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'd love to see where you guys are from. And just hit me up with your questions if it's investing related or property related. Great stuff, Spesh. Great stuff. So let me get started and not waste any of your time, because I'm sure you are here to basically learn something or gain some sort of knowledge. So I'd love to actually hear from you guys. Um, I'd love to. Okay, great to see. Specials from Durban. Oh, great. I'd love to hear where some of you other guys are from, and also some of your questions. Please leave me your questions in the chat section. I'll be going through those as well. But I have some of my questions here on my phone that I will be attending to first, and then I'll be going deep into the comment section as well. So it's going to be property related, investing relating. That's it, guys. Last time I went live, people started asking me very inappropriate questions. So yeah. I don't think that's going to happen today. Well, I hope not. So let's keep it to that. So someone asked me, I want to buy a house, but I'm confused about the costs. The cost related to purchasing a house, that is. So when you're purchasing a house, there are upfront costs that you need to pay. So it depends, firstly, if you do have a 100% bond or not. If you don't have a 100% bond, then obviously you'd need to top up in the form of a deposit or whatever. If the bank is giving you 90%, then you need to top up. If they're giving you 100%, then you are 100% covered for the value of the house. However, any additional costs such as transfer costs, transfer duty, and any bond registration costs will fall on you. That's definitely it. So if a bank is willing to give you more than 100%, they're basically saying that they're going to fund the bond registration costs for you. However, that does not refer to the transfer costs and transfer duty. So for those of you who don't know, transfer duty is the amount that is paid to SARS. I think it's paid to SARS for any property purchases that are made above R1 million. The threshold was really increased to R1 million. And sometimes people make the mistake of confusing transfer costs to transfer duty. Those are two different things. The people who are facilitating the transaction are lawyers, right? So lawyers are gonna want their fee. So they're not gonna just like forego their fee just because you're purchasing a property under R1 million. They might give you a discount depending on the law firm. Like I know the law firm that I use provides a discount for first-time home buyers. So if you are a first-time home buyer, they might provide you with a discount on the transfer costs. And then bond registration costs, your bank might fund that for you. And then if it is below R1 million, then you don't pay transfer duty. So that's some of the costs that are involved in purchasing a property. And I always say, also remember, when you are purchasing a property and you intend on moving in, there will also be moving costs. You need to budget for those moving costs, moving of your furniture, and also have a bit of a buffer just in case there are things in the house that are broken that you did not see before when you were viewing the property. There might be a few snags in areas that you didn't realize, and if you have purchased a home before, then you definitely know what I'm talking about. You'll see, this door is broken. I didn't know, Uti, the door is broken, and now I have to fix the door. There's be those small things here and there that you need to budget for as well. So if you have any other questions, hit me up in the comments, and I'll also go through your questions. So then someone asked me, does your credit score have a huge impact on you buying a home? Yes, it does. Your credit score, if you are intending on purchasing using a bank loan, it will have an impact because they use it to judge and see whether, firstly, do they want to give you a loan, and then also as an indication as to what interest rates they want to give you. So if you're a high risk client, then you might get a higher interest rates as compared to if they determine you to be a low risk client. And if you have a really good credit score, then you will likely be considered a lower risk client than someone who has a horrible credit score. That's just a quick answer there. Someone asked me as well, which are some of the books that I can read if I want to get started in property? So if you are in South Africa, the best books I think that I've seen so far are from Jason Lee. Some of the property books that he has. Jason Lee has a book called Retire Rich Through Property, the 10 steps to simple property wealth and making money in property in South Africa. So let me repeat those books. It's Retire Rich Through Property, 10 Simple Steps to Property Wealth, and Making Money in South Africa Through Property. The author is Jason Lee. I really believe that those books are good. And if you are looking to purchase a property and you want to learn more about property, he does dig deep in terms of the expenditures and different strategies in which you can follow. Another book you can read is a book called The Expert Landlord by David Beatty. I read this book. It goes into detail about how you should assess a tenant, how you should the process of placing a tenant and managing a tenant. Because if you are intending on being a landlord, there are certain laws that you need to know that you are governed by. You can't just do whatever you want. You can't kick people out of your house just because now you want to come back. There are certain laws and certain ways in which you need to do things in the contracts. So he does dig deep in terms of what is a good tenant and the fact that having no tenant is better than having a bad tenant. Because if you have ever had a bad tenant before, you know that the experience is not one that you ever want to experience again. If your tenant decides not to pay rent and not move out, do you see that you now have a big problem? If your tenant decides to trash your apartment, you have a big problem. So these are things that you need to consider, and the book really does go deep into detail as to how to try find yourself a good tenant at all times. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect in it, but it does help. It does help. And then another book that I found really good. It's not a property book, but I think it's a really good book just as individuals. It's called Atomic Habits. It's a book basically about how to break your bad habits and start having good habits. So I'm not going to go deep into the analogies that are discussed in the book, but if you are interested in reading it, it is a good book for someone who wants to start having better habits than the habits that they currently have. So, yep. Hit me up more questions in the comments, guys. I'm going to go through your questions one by one, addressing every single question. I just want to finish the list of questions that I have currently with me on my phone that I've been receiving from my DMs, okay? Then someone asked me, I want to buy a property and build rooms. Please advise me on how I should go about that. So if you want to purchase a property and build rooms, I first think you need to understand what is your target market and in which area you're intending on doing this. And is it permissible for you to do that in that area? You can't go into a gated community and build a room. It's not conducive. But if you do want to build rooms, I believe that's an excellent property investing strategy because you receive multiple streams of income for the same property and you're minimizing your risk and maximizing your returns. So the best way I think you should go about it, firstly, is find a place that has enough space for you to build, because you don't want to squash people in. As much as you are trying to make money out of property, but it should never be at the expense of the tenants. It should never be at the expense of the living conditions of another human being. If you're gonna build a room that are tiny, squashed up all together, firstly, I don't think that's legal. Because okay, but let me not even go into the legal side of things, but it's just not humane. To squash people into a small space. So firstly, find a bit of land where you can build, and then build decent sized rooms. And then once you've done that, but before you get there and you do that, you need to find a reliable builder, someone who's a reliable builder who's not going to use the cheapest materials that they can find, because then obviously you'll need to do constant repairs and maintenance, and over time it's going to cost you more money. So find someone who is a reliable builder, preferably a referenced builder from someone who's done work on someone else's house or someone who's built for someone else. Right. So once you've done that, you found a reliable builder, negotiated the price with them. for the materials and everything they're going to do. You build the house, I mean, you build the rooms. Usually there'd be a house already. And while you're building, start actually actively trying to find tenants so that by the time they're done building, you can, you have tenants in place already. And your builder, make sure that they have an, what is it? It's an NHBRC certificate. I think that's what it's called, NHBRC certificate, that basically allows them and says that this person is recognized as someone who can build structures. And in South Africa, they will be implementing a law this year. I think in September, if I'm not mistaken, they'll be implementing a law. I just forgot exactly what it's called, but if you have fixtures on your house or in your property that have not been that have not been that have not been NHBRC approved, then you're going to have a problem when you want to sell, basically, because the deeds office is going to give you trouble. So I definitely recommend that you use someone who is certified and approved. All right, let's keep going. Hit me up with more questions. Actually, let me go here and answer some of your questions in the chat section before I continue the questions that I have. Bank repossesses houses and sell them at low prices. What are some of the disadvantages of purchasing such properties? Do you, as a buyer, evict the previous owners or the bank does? So one thing that the bank makes crystal clear whenever they have repossessed a house and they're putting it up for sale is that firstly, they don't guarantee that you can even go view the property, because the people who are staying there, they don't want to move out. Like, and they don't want you to view. You're not going to view. The agents can't force them. And the bank can't kick them out. You need to follow the eviction process, and the eviction process will fall on you. The bank is not going to do it on your behalf. Yeah, so that's just a short answer. Repossessed homes, you need to make sure that, I believe you need to make sure that it's a vacant property, because if it's not a vacant property, then you might have troubles. Because even if the owners do allow you to come in and view the property, who's to say on transfer that they're going to decide to move out? If they have nowhere else to go, and they literally really have nowhere else to go, they're not going anywhere. And you're going to be stuck with a property that's bonded in your name that you have to pay for. However, you cannot occupy it. And you can't kick people out of a house who, like, you can't do that. Like, if you go the illegal route, then decide to and kick them out. Yeah, fine. I don't recommend you do that. But if you're doing things the proper way, you have to follow the eviction process, and the eviction process takes months, and it is a costly process as well to go through. And all those costs will be borne by you and not the bank. It applies actually for not just bank repossessed homes. So yeah. Anyway, let me continue with the questions here. Someone wants to do a joint bond application with their friend. This is a very tricky one, because firstly, if you do a joint bond application with someone, you need to realize that the impact of their credit score the impact of their credit record will be on the application as well. So you might find that you have a great credit score, but if they don't, and you do a joint, then you're basically going to be screwed. You're gonna have troubles. Like, you're not going to find the type of funding you want, and maybe if you do, it won't be at that interest rate that you like. And to make matters worse, what if that person decides to get married? They get married in community of property. What happens to this property that you have now jointly applied for? Do you see that their partner, their spouse, actually technically now has a share in this property? And if they divorce, that it's going to be a big problem for you in the long run. So we don't obviously want to see that happening, but always protect yourself and don't do joint applications with your friends. If you want to start a property business with your friend, register a company and go through the company. The company is not going to get funding, obviously, but if the two of you are the directors and you can stand as surety for the company, then the bank would be willing to give you a loan in the company's name. So I definitely recommend you do it that way. And then someone says, I signed an offer to purchase and I want out. My short answer to that is don't do it. There's a lot of things you need to consider. First, why do you want out? If you're saying you want out because you found another house that you want to buy, then that's not a good enough reason. You are going to get into trouble for that. You can't just decide one day randomly that you no longer want to purchase the house, even though you've signed the offer to purchase and received bank approval. That makes it even worse. I think the best thing you can do is to, because if you decide to go through with that, actually the lawyers will want to sue you for the cost that they've incurred. The agents will want the commission that they have earned on the deal. And the seller themselves can also sue you for if they fail to sell the house and say, hey, I had already sold it. And now, do you see, now you have three costs instead of having none if you had properly done your due diligence. So definitely don't decide on the day that you're now supposed to go sign papers that, hey, I don't want to go buy anymore. I've found another house or I've changed my mind for whatever reason. Definitely don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Okay, let me go here. Zanele Ntlabat. Hi everyone. I'm not being negative, but for me, property turned out to be a loss. So I think we must be aware and told of the negatives as well. Definitely, Zanele, which is why I'm actually on this live. And if you've been following me for a while, you'll see that there's something that the myths of property that I always speak about, the three myths of property, and one of them is that you always make money when you invest in property. The answer to that is no, you don't. And the reason why is because people don't know how to do their proper due diligence. They don't have the proper necessary education behind it. And not to say, Zanele, that you made bad decisions, because I don't know specifically what happened in your case. But from what I've seen and heard from a lot of people who have lost money in property, speaking from experience myself, it was due to the lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge of not knowing the upfront costs that are associated, the costs that are associated with dealing with tenants, the costs associated with repairs and maintenance, and also the fact that I wasn't making enough money, which is why I always say, always make sure you make more than what it costs you. If you buy, and then people say to me that, yeah, but that's nearly impossible. It's not, guys. It really is not. If you purchase a one-bedroom apartment, what can you really do to a one-bedroom apartment? Can only rent it to one person, can only rent it to one couple. So obviously, the chances of you making a lot of money from there are slim to none. But however, if you purchase a house and you build a room, what are the chances of you making money from there? Like, they are much higher than someone who has a one-bedroom apartment in Sandton. You bought a one-bedroom apartment in Sandton for 2 million rands, and they're probably renting it out for like 10,000 rands, making a loss every month because of the levies, rates, and taxes and the bond. And me, with the same 2 million rands, with, no, not even 2 million rands, with a million rands, and I bought a house, I bought some rooms, and I'm generating such a big income that is more than able to cover all my expenses. Let me just make a quick example in terms of numbers. I was speaking to a colleague of mine who was telling me that he's grossing in on his property 25,000 rands a month in rentals. Right? He's grossing in 25,000 rands a month in rentals, and his expense in terms of the bond on the house is 8,000 rands. He took out a personal loan to build the rooms, and his repayments on that personal loan is 3,000 rands a month. Rates and taxes all combined, 500 rand a month. So basically, he's paying 8 plus 3 is 11, which is 11.5. Those are his expenses for the month, and his revenue, his income is 25,000 rands a month. He's making, what is it, 25,000 minus 11,500. That's how much he's making per month in profit. So he was smart about it. He thought about it to know how do I maximize my returns. So that's how we need to think about property. It's not always about trying to buy the most expensive property, or buying property in Waterfall, or buying property in the north. Like, that's not where the money is. I don't believe that that's where sustainable accommodation is for the majority of South Africa. The majority of South Africa is not in the top 1%. So why cater for the top 1% instead of catering for the majority? That's what I believe. So yeah, I definitely agree with you, Zanel. I see we got Billo from Eastern Cape as well in Ntata. That's great. Please save this live. I will definitely try to do so, Cindy. I'll definitely try to do that. Let me go back to some of these questions. If there's no title deed, what can I do? If you want to purchase a house that does not have a title deed, I would refer you definitely to a lawyer. I do not deal with property that does not have a title deed. because there's just too much risk and complication around it. So I would definitely say stay away from it. But if you really want the property, consult a lawyer who will be able to assist you. I know a really good lawyer, Songezo. He can help you if you need any of his contact details in terms of anything property related. He will be sure, I'm sure, more than willing to assist you. Just let him know that you were referred by Nhlakanipho, and he should be more than willing and able to assist you. Songezo is his name. Hit me up in the comments, DM me if you need any further details or if you need a reliable lawyer. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going. Should I pay the seller directly? No. That's another thing. Don't pay the seller directly. Always work with the lawyers, because that's the safest way to go about things, because the money goes into a trust and all of that, and they deal with it accordingly. Okay. Is it the best time to fix my interest rate on a bond? If I'm going to purchase a house, I think there's a slight misconception about the interest rates and fixing your interest rate. When a bank is going to fix your interest rate, the interest rate now in South Africa is what? I don't know. It's significantly gone down. It keeps going down, but the prime rate is like really low right now. If you want to fix your interest rate, they're not going to fix it at the current prime rate. Like, think about it, right? When the bank fixes an interest rate, they're trying not to lose by all means, which means if they fix it at the current rates, knowing very well that it's at an all-time low, and then a few months or in like a year, the interest rates start going up again, then they're making a loss. Banks don't want to make a loss. They're running a business at the end of the day, and they make money from interest. And if they're now making a loss on you, do you see that that doesn't make sense to them? So what they're gonna do is they're gonna fix it, fine, if you want it to be fixed, but they're not gonna fix it at the current prime rates. They'll fix it at a higher interest rate. So I know personally my mother, in 2017 when she bought a car. I don't know what the interest rate was back then, but I think it was probably around 10, 11%. They fixed her interest rate at 14%, 14.5%. That was her fixed interest rate. So do you see now that years later, she's actually still stuck with 14.5% that is fixed, and the interest rate in South Africa is like, what, 7% now? She's at a significant disadvantage. Obviously, we fixed the situation now because we went to another bank to get a quote so they can purchase the loan off that different from that bank. So that's just a mitigating factor that we did because she was paying way too much on her loan. But if you fix your interest rate, you must always realize it's going to be at a higher rate than what the current prime rate is. And if it drops, then you fucked. But if it increases, then you're in a good position. You're going to be in a good position because then, if let's say the interest rate does rise significantly and becomes 17%, you will still have the interest rate of 14%. So that's the chat with interest rates. Yep. And then someone also asked me about the SARS automation, that they owe money to SARS. All I have to comment about that is that automation is not necessarily correct. Make sure you go on there and you see exactly what's going on, because mine as well was incorrect. SARS said I owe them, I think it was 12,000 rands. And I went in and I did my return, and then they ended up paying me back about 4,000 rands. So I got like a refund of 4,000 rands from SARS. So if you are getting those SMSs and you're getting worried and stressed, go into your profile and see what is wrong. If you don't know how to do a tax return, consult someone who can, a tax practitioner, a friend. I don't know who you can consult, but ask someone to help you to do it so that you can fix it. Because owing SARS money is, I don't want to ever owe SARS money. Hit me up in the comments if you've ever owed SARS money. Like, imagine owing SARS money. Like, you didn't actually eat it. Like, it's not money. It's not like a loan, If you take out a loan to buy something and you enjoy it, then you can be like, ish, yeah, now I owe money. But at least you enjoyed the money. Now, when you owe SARS money, it's like, Kanjan, I didn't take anything from you. It feels like that. So hit me up in the comments if you've ever owed SARS money or been through that experience. It's one that I never personally want to go through. And then also hit me up in the comments for any other questions you guys have. Let me go back here. Let's see. May I please do a TikTok video picture with the book covers so we can see them. Unfortunately, I'm unable to write down as I am listening. Okay, all right. Spesh, I do actually have a TikTok video, so I'm not sure how many of you follow me on TikTok, but I have a TikTok video on some of these books already, but I'll do another one. It's not a problem. Come on, guys, there's a few of you here. Please like the video. I'd really appreciate if you guys were to like the video. I decided to go live today on YouTube so that I can address all your property questions, investing questions. So I'd love to see you guys liking the video. Let's get the video to a few more likes. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep it going. Please get into buying property on auction. What are all the costs involved? And advise on the best platforms to get into auction buying. Okay, I wouldn't say I don't wanna suggest a platform. I mean, an auctioneer. There's many different auctioneers. They're all basically the same, I think. Properties at auction, you need to realize that there's a risk associated to them. The worst thing that can ever happen to you that I've personally ever seen happen to someone was that they purchased the wrong property. They purchased the wrong property because at the auction there was a mix-up of the property in terms of the address. So when the guy viewed it, he didn't actually view the right property. Sometimes you don't have even access to view the property. And when a property is being auctioned, it's kind of similar to when it's being repossessed. Remember, if there's people living there and they don't want to leave, then they don't want to leave. There's nothing you can do about it. It becomes really difficult to get them out. So realize all the risk associated with auction buying, as well as the fact that you can't go to an auction, then they say sold to you, then you decide Osafun. That's also not an option. So please do your research properly into understanding fully the risks associated with auction buying. The benefit is that you can get properties at a significant discount. I do agree with that. I've seen a property on an auction. It was two properties that were selling for 400,000 rands, 400 or 450. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was 400 or 450, and the original purchase price of the properties in 2001 was 300,000 rands each. So it was in essence 600,000 rands. So the owner purchased the properties in 2001 for 600,000, and in 2019 he was selling it for 400,000. Do you see that that property is actually at a significant discount? So I do agree that auctions are one of the best places you can go to. Also, if you are looking for a bargain, but you really need to know what you're doing. If it's your first property investment, I'd say don't go into auctions first. You can attend them for a matter of interest and learning, but for your first deal, don't go to an auction unless you're going with someone who has experience and has done it before. But if you're doing it solo, I would say don't do it. But if you know someone who's done it, and if you do want to just go ahead and do it and risk it all, then go ahead and risk it all. I'm not going to stop you. But yeah, that's just my take on auctions. Come on, guys, there's like 20 of us here. Can you please like the video? I want to see some likes. Let's at least get it to 15 likes. Okay, drop me more questions. Let me see who else has more comments. What's your advice regarding first property investments? Example, do you recommend apartments for starting or? So if you're looking for a property investment, what is an investment? Let's ask yourself that. What is an investment and what are you hoping to achieve with your investment? An investment, I see it as somewhere where you put your money expecting a return. Now ask yourself, what type of investments are you looking for? Long-term, short-term, and properties are long-term. And what type of returns are you looking for? Looking for good returns, the best returns you could possibly get. And will an apartment give you the best returns possible? The answer, in my opinion, is no, because apartments are restricted. There's so many rules that restrict you from firstly doing whatever you want to do to the apartment. You can't extend the apartment. You're limited in terms of the number of people who can rent out in your apartment, because it's a gated community, man. Like there's rules, there's complex rules or estate rules, there's levies that you need to pay. If you've ever owned an apartment, you know that there's levies on top of the rates and taxes that you have to pay to municipality. There's levies. Levies cover things like future maintenance and repairs, the cleaners that clean the around, security, all those kind of things, right? Those levies need to be paid on a monthly basis, and they increase on a yearly basis. I know I had an apartment, still have it recreated more than anything. I'm actually gonna sell it now. I'm planning on selling it next month, but that apartment, when I bought it, the levies were 1,800, and then they had an AGM meeting where they decided that the following year the levies are no longer 1,800 rands per month; they're now 2,200 per month. So mind you, I'm paying the bond, I'm paying the rates and taxes to municipality, and then there's this 2,200 as well that I need to pay for levies. And next year, who's going to say that they're not going to be 2,500? They're not going to be 2,700. They could literally keep increasing, and it's outside of your control. And if you don't pay your levies, it's not like your rates and taxes. If you don't pay your levies, they call you up, they incur interest and debts. Debt collectors start calling you, and I think it even affects your credit score. So those are the risks, that those are the things that I don't like about having an apartment. But as compared to having a house, where I could purchase a house, if I decide to extend the house, I can extend it. If I decide to have 5 tenants in the house or 1 tenant, I can do that. It's up to me. It's my house, and there's no one who can really tell me. There's no one who has rules in place for me for how long visitors can stay. Nobody has those type of rules for me. So I definitely prefer houses as compared to apartments. But if you do want to buy an apartment, hey, go for it. Yeah, that's just my take. At Spesh, that's what I experienced. So personally, wouldn't advise anyone to buy it if it's not vacant, unless unezinkabi dog. Okay, so it looks like Uzanele had an experience where it looks like you had an experience where someone didn't want to leave, and you would have seen that in your experience, Anele. If they don't want to leave, they don't want to leave. You can't do anything about it, and the eviction process is expensive. It can cost 40, 50,000 rands, and it can take 3 to 6 months. And who do you think is paying those eviction costs? It's going to be you. Who do you think is paying the bond in the meantime in a property that you don't even live in, or you don't have tenants living in? It's you again. So that's the risk of purchasing properties that are repossessed and that are coming from auctions. So you need to make sure you know what you're doing. And if you are willing to go through the eviction cost, then hey, I know someone who actually didn't want to go through the eviction cost and decided to pay the tenants, pay the people who were living there. They said, okay, if I go through the eviction process, it's going to cost me 40 to 50,000 rands, and I'll probably be paying for the bond for the next 3 to 6 months. Let me just offer these people 10,000 rands, offer them 10,000 rands to leave. He did that. He said, hey guys, I know you're going through financial troubles. The reason why you don't want to leave is because you have nowhere else to go. I'll pay you 10,000 rands if you can leave within the next 2 weeks. And they agreed. Next 2 weeks, they were gone, paid them 10,000 rands. And it does seem unfair. Don't get me wrong. It seems very unfair that you have to pay people to leave your place, your house, but he would have incurred 60, 70,000 rands over the period of time instead of just getting rid of them immediately and paying them 10 grand. So that's another strategy you can follow if you do have people who are not cooperating and don't want to leave. Cindy, I appreciate your channel so much. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, let's go. Let's see. What else? On TikTok, I ask whether I can buy a flat and rent it out, even though I'm working overseas. Okay, so those people, if you are working overseas, it's going to depend. Are you a South African resident or are you not? Because how are you going to purchase it? Are you intending on purchasing using bank financing or not? Those are things you need to consider. The bank, it's going to differ depending on every bank, but it definitely is possible for you to purchase property. Just because you're in another country, it doesn't prevent you from purchasing the property. So maybe give me an indication as to whether you're a South African resident or not, and whether you have a South African ID or not. Because then if you do, it's going to be the same process as everyone else, regardless of where you live. But if you are not in the country, I'm now begging the question to say, How are you purchasing a property you haven't viewed unless you have someone who's viewed it on your behalf? I don't believe in purchasing something I've never seen. One, because how do I know it exists? Two, I need to see what condition it's in, because the condition of the property is what's going to guide you in terms of negotiating. If the property is in perfect condition, then you don't have much room for negotiating. But if the property is not in great condition, then you have a lot of room to negotiate the property price, because you can start mentioning, hey, there's this, there's that, I need to fix that, it's going to cost me, so your price is not reasonable. And one thing I definitely love to do is to get a property inspector to generate you an actual report that's going to give you an idea of how much the different snags you identify are going to cost you. And you can use that report in your negotiation to say, hey, listen, I got a professional to come in and see this property, and they're saying that it's going to cost me 40,000 rands to fix all these things that are in the property. So it's either you fix them and we can agree on a price, or I fix them, however your price needs to drop. So those are the type of things that you would need to consider as well. So, but to answer you directly, Nosipo, you can purchase a property. Just because you're not in South Africa does not prevent you from purchasing the property. Um, you're just going to have a bit of trouble, I think, when you have to sign the papers at the end. I forgot what that process is called, when you have to physically go in and sign with the lawyers. I'm not sure how that would work, because generally you need to be physically present. So yeah, you need to consult with the lawyers and ask them how they can do about that, how they can go about that. So yeah, let me keep going. Property revaluation. I bought a flat and did major revaluations. Do I need to have my property revaluated, and how do I have that done? Okay, Pesh, two things. If you have an apartment, the value of your property is always limited to the value of the other apartments around you. You can't in an apartment complex do major repairs. Let's say you bought your place for 500,000 and you do all these amazing repairs for 300,000. Now you think maybe your property is worth 800,000 or even more. But if the average of the property selling in that complex is 500,000 to 600,000, do you see that you've now actually wasted money by adding all that additional work? That's one thing you need to realize about renovating. Renovation does not always equal the renovation cost that you incur does not always equal the increase in value of the property. If you decide to now renovate and over renovate, that might actually negatively impact you, because nobody is going to be willing to pay the price that you think your property is worth. They're going to ask you, Guti, why is yours worth 800,000 while Umakelwane, your neighbor, has also a two-bedroom apartment and theirs is 500,000? What's so special about yours? Then you'll tell them. And maybe your renovations aren't really worth it in their eyes. Because remember, market value is not what you think it is. It's what I believe the average of the properties are selling in that area. And if you are way above the average, then you're never going to get a buyer for your property. One question I'll ask you also is, why do you want to revalue? Why do you want a valuation of your property? Are you looking to refinance? In that case, contact your bank. The bank will, your relative bank will guide you in terms of the process that they're going to follow for identifying the market value of your property. What I said also might not be relevant, because let's say you bought the property in a really crappy condition and you fixed it up and now it looks average and like the other properties, then the value would have increased. So that's definitely another way. You just get your bank to contact your banker, and they'll get a valuator, because when you purchase a property, I'm not sure if you know this, but when you purchase a property, the bank sends out people to go verify the property and verify that the market value, the amount you're purchasing the property for is reasonable and of market value. So the bank does have people who do that for them. Just contact your bank and they'll be able to assist you. And then Adzanel, I'm so much experience, and thanks for warning us. We learn from others. Yes, exactly. So especially we do learn from each other's experiences. Experience, yeah, the mistakes that I make, if I share them to as many people as possible, they won't make the same mistakes. Not to say that you will make no mistakes, but your mistakes will be minimized, and especially if it's stupid mistakes. Sometimes you make stupid mistakes, like I made on my first property deal. I made dumb mistakes. I wasn't prepared for the upfront costs. I wasn't ready for the levies. Like I really could have done so much better, and I didn't. But now I know, and I'm gonna share that with everyone I know, so that they don't make the same mistakes. They can make different mistakes, and they can share those mistakes with me, and we can learn together and grow together. It doesn't make sense for me to try, I don't know, starring and be Superman and not share my experiences. I'm actually doing this and sharing my experiences so that I can teach as many people as I can about property. This is what it's all about. Yeah, I love this. I love this session, guys. Let's keep it going. Drop me more questions in the comments. Hey, Nhlakanipho, in terms of understanding how the SA tax system works, what book would you recommend for someone with basic accounting knowledge? Okay, I don't know any books. I don't know any books that specifically speak to the tax accounting systems in South Africa, because also remember the tax legislation is updated on a yearly basis. So the tax legislation last year is not going to be the same as this year, even though fundamentally the principles will remain the same. So if you studied accounting, you might be familiar with some of the tax legislation. I think just have a revisit at the latest tax legislations, your Section 11A of tax deductions, Section 13.6 that speaks to residential deductions as well, 13.6, and yeah, also the Section 24J for interest deductions on your bond payments. So I know these might be a bit technical terms, but if you are familiar with accounting, I'm pretty sure you might be familiar with these terms as well. But if you're not, I don't think it's something that's a train smash to worry about. I do not want to be an expert, but I'd really like to learn the fundamentals. So yeah, Section 11A of the Income Tax Act, Section 23J of the Income Tax Act, and Section 13.6 of the Income Tax Act. Check out those sections, and you can just read them directly from the legislation. And SARS does have on their website interpretations of them to help you understand better as well. My mom sold a house in 2017, but the guy didn't even pay a quarter of the amount my mom charged. Then he moved in the house without permission and started doing his own renovation. But my mom still has the title deed with her. So how do we go about it? Because he even changed the locks. We can't come inside. That's a very big problem, Zolega. What I would say is consult a lawyer. Please DM me on Instagram. DM me on Instagram, and I have a lawyer who can help you deal with the situation, so that the sale of the house can be completed. Because I'm not sure. Also, did this person sign an offer to purchase? And were there any lawyers that you used in your process, or was it verbal agreements? Because remember, South Africa, you can't have verbal agreements for sale of property. It needs to be written agreements. So send me a DM on Instagram, Zolega, at @IM_Ntombela. Send me a DM on Instagram, and we can engage further about it. I'll give you a contact, a lawyer who can help you as well with that issue, because that does seem like a big problem. Because if they've now even done renovation, or what they've done sounds to be illegal. I'm not sure of the full story, but that doesn't sound accurate at all. Why did they even move in before the transfer had completed? That doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, please just DM me on Instagram and we can converse on it further. KM Mabaso makes so much sense. Thanks. I'll consider buying a house with a yard in Ekas. Yeah, so that's just my take. KM Mabaso. It's just really my take. I really don't believe in purchasing apartments, not because I think if you want to live in it, then maybe it might be worth it for you. If you're looking at it for investment purposes, I don't think it's a horrible investment. I just believe that you could do so much better. Uh, Purchasing an apartment in Waterfall is not, I believe, the best return on your money that you could make. If you're banking on capital appreciation, that's a different story, because maybe your property will increase in value much faster than Indli Yasekasi, but you're not guaranteed of that, firstly. And like you really aren't guaranteed of capital appreciation, proven by the fact that earlier on, as I mentioned, there's a guy who bought a property in 2001 for 600,000, and in 2019 was trying to sell it for 400,000 and was struggling to find buyers. Capital appreciation is not guaranteed. So if you've ever heard me speak about capital appreciation, you'll know that I don't believe in it. You must always treat capital appreciation as a bonus, because yes, property does increase in value over time, but treat it as a bonus. And what do you treat as your core source of income? It would be the monthly cash flows that you are getting. Would you want to purchase a property and say, "Hi, no, hey, it's going to increase in value over the next 20 years"? Or do you want to purchase a property and say, "Every month I'm making a profit of 10,000 rands on this property, and it's probably going to increase in value over the next 20 years"? I prefer option two. So yeah, the rich register a private company and move their properties into a business name to acquire more into their portfolio and increase assets. Is this true? How does this work? And are there benefits to it? Okay, so they don't necessarily, I don't think they necessarily move them. So if you're really rich, firstly, you're probably using a trust. But that's a story for another day. Trusts, I believe, are for estate planning, for long term. Need to have a lot of properties if you want to do it. Well, you don't need to, but it will be cost effective if you have a lot, because if you have one or two properties and using a trust, you're gonna get chowed with tax. The tax on trusts are 40%, 40 or 41% in Kotleu, and it's fixed. So always remember that with trusts. And with private companies, the benefits when you register a company is the tax as well. As an individual, the potential for you to get taxed in South Africa reaches up to 45%. And as a company, it's up to 28%. So do you see that your profits as a company, the maximum SARS can tax you on your profits is 28%. But if you're doing it in your personal capacity, the maximum that SARS can charge you for your profits is 45%. So definitely it is recommended for you to use a company in that regard. Company is an individual, it is a recognized person in South Africa. So we can also obtain financing as a company, but you do need a track record. I think they're gonna want like 3 years financial statements. They want to want something like that. Or the directors of the company can stand as surety. So that means that if you're director of the company and the company does not have a history, does not have a track record, you can stand as surety, which means that you'll say, if company X cannot repay the loan to the bank, I as an individual will be liable. So banks can also have a look at that. So I do also recommend working in a company if you are planning on building a property portfolio for yourself. But for your first one or two properties, I don't think it's really necessary. But yeah, definitely look into setting up a company. I have a company that I use to flip property, because the profits that I get taxed on will be much better in company formats as compared to my individual capacity. All right, Nosipo, I am a South African. Yeah, okay. Do you have a South African ID? I think that's mainly what I was asking. Yeah, that would be a more relevant question. If you have a South African ID and if you're a South African resident. All right. So, guys, if you have any other questions as well, drop me in the comment section. For those of you who are here, let me actually just make an announcement for some of you who might not know. I have a property webinar that I'll be hosting as well. I'll be showing you guys how to make money in property, even if you don't have a lot of money, how I started out flipping property deals. I'll be sharing with you I'll be sharing 3 tips that I have, and some of the secrets that I've learned in property of making money in property if you don't have a lot of money. So if you are interested in the webinar, it is in the link in my bio on Instagram and Facebook. Just register your details there and you'll get a link in your email with the link to the check your promotions folder, because I'm noticing for some people it's going to their promotions folder. So yeah, check that out. Bro, thanks for the opportunity. I'm a bit late, but I'd like to know, what is your experience with student tenants? Horrible. I've only had student tenants once. Zanele, I don't have the link with me right now, but Let me do this. I don't have the link with me like right now because I'm obviously on the live. So let me see if I do this. Let me try to get you guys the link actually, and hopefully, yeah. So I'll be sending you guys. I'll send you guys the link in the comment section just now. Just give me a second for the webinar so that you guys can register. It's gonna be free. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Um, Great stuff. My back. Please give me an indication if everyone can hear me and see me. Can you hear me and see me? Okay, great. So I've sent the link in the comment section. So that's for my property webinar. If you are interested in learning how to make money in property, even if you don't have a lot of money, flipping property and making large chunks of property, money in property. Like on my first deal, I remember I spent about 1,200 and I made 50,000 rands. So I'll be showing you guys exactly how to do that if you are interested in that type of thing. You can definitely register. I just posted the link in the bio, in the bio, the link in this section. So yeah. What else? What else was I mentioned? The question, yeah. What is my experience with student tenants? Student tenants, you need to realize that there's a lot of the profit margins there can be really high, but the risk is also really high. Students, what I've seen, you can charge students like 3,000 rands each to share a room in a commune. Like it's ridiculous what people are charging out here. People are making serious money from student accommodation. There is a lot of money in student accommodation. There's just two risks, I believe, that are the most important to know. Well, three. First one, students will trash your apartments, your place. They're likely to trash your place because they host parties and not everyone, obviously, not all students, but typically across the board, students are known for damaging the property. So that's the first risk you face. Second risk you face is the fact that students don't like to rent out for 12 months, so they want to rent out for 10 months of the year because they're not at school for 12 months of the year. They're only there for 10 months of the year. So you need to start thinking, what is your property going to be doing in those 2 months? So if it's vacant, you're going to pay the costs, or are you going to put it on Airbnb? What exactly are you going to do with the property in those 2 months? The third and the last risk is when a student gets halfway through the year, the student loses their funding, the student gets excluded, the student, for whatever reason, has to leave and go back home and is no longer coming back. Do you see that you are now stuck with a vacancy that you did not prepare for because you expected the tenants to be there the whole year, and now they're not there the whole year because maybe they've lost funding, maybe um, they got excluded. You never know what might have happened, but the tenant is definitely not going to pay for not being there, which is a very topical issue right now with the whole COVID-19 issue, where people are actually at home, tenants are at home, students are at home, and they're expected to pay rent. So it's very difficult because the landlord is saying, hey, you signed a contract. Your contract says that you need to pay rent, regardless of whether you are there or not. I did not say go home. Do you understand? And from the landlord's perspective, it's a thing of, no, you chose to go home. You could have stayed, but you chose you want to go spend your quarantine at home. It's not my fault. Just like, let's say I'm renting in this apartment. If I decide, hey, you know what, I don't feel like being here anymore since I'm working from home now, I might as well just go back to Durban and stay with my mom. I signed a lease agreement here. It's not the landlord's fault that I'm deciding to change location. I still need to pay rent here. And then from the student's perspective, it's a thing of, but I'm not at school anymore. It doesn't make sense. I'm only in Joburg, I'm only in KZN Durban, I'm only in Cape Town because of school. And now school is no longer there, it's online. So I chose to go home. Why must I pay rent when I'm not there? Um, it becomes difficult. It's a difficult conversation. I'm just glad I don't have to deal with it because there's no right and wrong answer. There's only a legal answer right now. That's the only route I would really go for, is to consult with a lawyer and follow the most reasonable and legal approach. So students accommodation, yeah. Okay, at Figile from TikTok. Sorry, I'm late. Is it possible for one to negotiate or reduce the interest rate or total repayment on a home loan? Yes, you can. You can go back to your bank and say, "Hey, bank, um, depending on obviously if you have a variable interest rate or not. If you have a variable interest rate, then your interest rates would have been decreasing as the interest rates decrease. And if you don't have a variable interest rate and it's fixed, then you can go back and try and negotiate with your bank, but they're most likely not going to want to negotiate with you. And the best thing you can do in that situation is go to another bank and say, hey, bank X, go to another bank and say to them, hey, I have a home loan with this bank and they don't want to reduce my interest rates. Are you guys able to take this home loan from them at a better interest rate than what they're offering me? Chances are they're going to say yes because they want the business. Let's remember, guys, banks are a business and they're competing with each other. So you must leverage that to your benefit. So go to the different banks and say, hey, I have an interest rate of 10%. Can you give me a better interest rate? The chances are that bank is going to try to give you a better interest rate so that they can take business away from the other bank. So yes, you can negotiate with your bank, and if they're not willing to negotiate, go to another bank. So yeah, okay, Figile again. I wanted to ask, how does one pay off their home loan quicker? It's pretty simple. Make additional payments. Make additional payments to your home loan and ask your banker to make sure that that amount, that facility is available for you if you want it to be available, or they must lock it in. If you make additional payments, let's say you're required to pay 4,000 rands a month on your home loan and you're paying 4,500, that additional 500 rand is not going to go towards paying off the interest of the bank. It's going to go towards reducing the actual amount that you borrowed from the bank. And that additional 500 rand will make such a big difference, guys. I always say that you must always try and make an additional source of income. One stream of income is not sufficient. I repeat, one stream of income is not sufficient. You need a second source of income so that you can be able to make additional payments on all your loans, regardless of whether it's just a home loan, personal loan. That additional payment that you make, even if it seems like it's small, in the long run, the numbers add up. It definitely does add up. So find a side hustle, find another job, a second job, I don't know, find something to do to make additional payments and also renegotiate your interest rates with your bank. So those are the top two things that I think you should do if you are looking to paying off your loan, which is why I actually am hosting that property webinar, because I want to teach you guys how to make a second stream of income through property, even if you don't have a lot of money. And I I did it earlier on in the month, and a lot of people missed it. A lot of people missed the webinar, so I decided, you know what, let me do it again. This is going to be my last webinar. I'm not doing another webinar because they're tiring and I have to prepare for them and I need to answer questions. So I'll be doing my last and final webinar. If you are interested in it, the link is in the comments here in the live chat section. So click on the live chat section and register for it. And yeah, so that's all I have to say regarding making that second stream of income in property, even if you don't have a lot of money. I repeat, I had 1,500 and I made 5,000 rands. I mean, same, I made 5,000, I made 50,000 rands on my first property deal. Property flip, sorry, not my first property deal. So my first property flip, I made 50,000 rands with that 1.5. So if you want to learn how to do it, register for the webinar. Anyway, let's keep it going. I wanted to ask, how does one? Okay, I think I just answered that. Is it smart thinking to pay off a home loan mortgage as soon as possible? It depends. If you're living in the house and you want to pay off quicker, then I say yes, pay it off as quickly as possible because all the interest is going directly to the bank. But if it's an investment and you're doing your tax returns, which is something you have to do, if it's an investment, then not necessarily, because the interest that the bank is charging you is tax deductible because it's for investment purposes. It's generating a rental income on a monthly basis. As I mentioned before, if you were here, Section 24J of the Income Tax Act allows you to deduct the interest portion of your loan so long as that loan is used to generate an income. So in the example of you owning a property that is for investment purposes, when you're receiving your rental income, that is taxable, right? But to reduce the amount of money you'll pay on tax, you can reduce it using the interest that you are paying to the bank. So in essence, you have your rental income here, you have the interest here. You can use this interest to reduce this rental income to calculate your taxable income that SARS will be taxing you on. So it depends. If you're living in the house, pay it off as quickly as possible. If it's an investment, it's not a necessity, because as soon as you don't have a loan attached to it, that whole rental income is taxable and you don't have many deductions against the rental income anymore. So it depends on you and your risk appetite. So definitely look at that. DM me on Instagram if you have any further questions about it, or follow-up questions, you can send them in the chat section here. Pilani, which is better, lease option agreement or an installment purchase? I think it's a lease option agreement because you have the option. That's the nice thing about a lease option agreement. At the end of the term, you have the option. It's not an obligation to purchase. With an installment sale, basically you've bought it. You've bought it, and if shit goes south during the years, along the years, then you kind of stuck in it and it's gonna get repossessed. But if you go into a lease option agreement, at the end of 5-7 years, whatever the agreement is, you have the option to purchase the house, and you're purchasing it for below what it's worth. So I think it just depends also on your strategy and your risk appetite, but that's what I would go for. That's what I would prefer. Great stuff. I see it looks like it's the last of the questions. Let me actually just enter into the last question that I received on TikTok. Received this on TikTok, so let me just answer that question. Okay, what are the exact processes about an offer to purchase? Oh shit, my battery is dying. Give me 1 second, let me get my charger. Great. So the question I received here is, what are the exact processes of going about an offer to purchase? So an offer to purchase is the legal documents that you sign when you are purchasing a property, or signing if you are selling a property, you have to sign it as the seller. This document is legally binding. You can't just get in and out of it as you please, as I had mentioned before. So the legalities behind it is the suspensive conditions. There are suspensive conditions to it that need to be met for the agreement to be enacted, and it differs on every single offer to purchase. You can include nearly anything in an offer to purchase that you wish to include. Early occupation, you can include it for a rental fee if you want. Anything, and nearly anything you can include really in your offer to purchase. So I would definitely say the lawyer who will be going through the offer to purchase with you, or the estate agent, must take you through every section so that you completely understand what it means for you and what it means for the seller. But on a high level overview, the offer to purchase is exactly just a document that you sign. And the last one, is this the last one? Second to last one. Where do I go if I want to start out in real estate? Yo, guys, this question, I receive it quite a lot. And all I'll say is invest in educating yourself. YouTube is a good platform to learn about property. Follow people like me who are trying as much as possible to teach about property. Get yourself a property mentor, read books, and then go out there and action. Buy your first property, make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes. And then, okay, this is the last question I'm answering. Actually, I did answer this question. Yeah, I actually did answer this question. So that's it for today, guys. Been here for over an hour. If you've been here the whole time, truly appreciate it. Please like the video if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel. Um, yeah, let me see. I can see there's one last question from Trevor Gardner. What's your thoughts on a potential housing crash or eviction foreclosure flood to the markets? I think it will happen, but not now. Um, the thing is, what the property market is not like the stock markets, or it doesn't follow economic conditions in your country as and when they happen immediately. When people start losing their jobs today, does not mean property prices and foreclosures will start happening today. It takes a while for that to happen because those people need to default on payments. They first need to organize payment plans, and then they default on that. Payment holidays, they default on that. And then, only then, will banks start saying, okay, we are going to consider selling your house, or a foreclosure, a repossession of your house. So it's going to take a while. I don't see it happening this year. I see it probably happening sometime next year, depending also on how quickly we bounce back as an economy. But I definitely see us as the housing markets in South Africa dropping significantly, especially for properties that are above 1.5 million. For properties below 1.5 million, I don't think it will be as impacted because there's a lot of people in the brackets of below a million who are looking to purchase a house. And with the historically low interest rates we have right now, they're kind of in the right position. Not everyone was significantly impacted by COVID-19. I think that's something we need to remember as well. But the housing market in the next 12 months, I believe something like prices will gradually start to decrease, but not now. We're not going to see it happening this year, I believe. That's just my opinion. More than welcome to disagree with me, and I accept that as well. Is it advisable to purchase a house in another province for investment, say in the Eastern Cape, and I'm in KZN? I don't know, Sabelo. Like, do you know anyone in Eastern Cape who's gonna handle the property for you? Are you familiar with the area there, or are you just gambling? At the end of the day, you need to understand the area, type of tenants, property values, the rentals that you're going to receive, and how you're going to manage the property. If you have all those answers, then you can invest in any province in the whole country. You can invest even overseas if you want. But if you can't answer those questions, don't do it. Rather invest across, like, around your neighborhood. Anyway, guys, thank you for all the questions that you've received. If you have any further questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at @IM_Ntombela. Let me write it in here, IM_Ntombela, so that you guys can DM me on Facebook or Instagram if you wish to ask me any follow-up questions. I will answer you. I'll make a video specifically for you if it requires a slightly longer answer, or I'll go live just like this today. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like today's video. And lastly, the webinar, the online property webinar that I'll be having, register for it. The link is in the live chat section, and I hope to see all of you guys there. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Cheers.